Most people operate under the assumption that self-control relies entirely on willpower. You grit your teeth, you force the behavior, and if you succeed, it means you're strong. But that's not how the human brain actually works. The people who consistently exercise every morning, finish difficult projects, and hit their targets aren't mentally tougher than anyone else. They simply understand the mechanical wiring of their own minds, and they use it to their advantage. You've likely experienced this friction yourself. You set the alarm the night before, formulate a perfect plan, and swear tomorrow will be different. And then the morning comes. You hit the snooze button, you skip the workout, or you make the impulse purchase anyway. When those plans fall apart, the immediate response is usually self-blame. You start believing that you lack discipline as a core part of your personality. That thought process is the real barrier to your progress. Behavioral science offers a completely different perspective. Self-control is a highly trainable skill. Once you stop fighting your brain's natural wiring and start working with it, you can master that skill. Relying on raw effort alone is a strategy designed to fail. True discipline requires you to install 4 specific scientifically proven psychological frameworks. The first method is called an implementation intention. Psychologist Peter Gwitzer spent years researching why some individuals achieve their goals while others fall short. He found that success didn't correlate with ambition, but rather a very specific habit of thought. This diagram illustrates the stark difference between the two approaches. The disconnected circle on the left represents a vague motivational wish, like saying, "I want to exercise more." The timeline on the right represents a strict trigger plan. When it is 7 a.m. on Monday, I will put on my shoes and walk out the door. Every time you have to decide whether to do something in the moment, your brain opens a negotiation, and a tired, distracted brain will usually negotiate against you. But as you can see here, the when-then structure bypasses that looping pathway of mental negotiation entirely, leading straight to execution. By removing the need for a real-time choice, the decision is already locked in. Researchers observed that making this single shift increases behavioral follow-through by over 200%. That brings us to the second pillar, which involves how you manage your cognitive energy. In a well-known experiment, psychologist Roy Baumeister had one group resisting fresh-baked chocolate chip cookies while allowing another group to eat them freely. Both were then given a difficult puzzle. The group that resisted the cookies gave up on the puzzle much faster. This gauge demonstrates why a phenomenon Baumeister called ego depletion. Willpower runs on a finite daily tank. Every resisted temptation, every forced decision, and every difficult task draws from that exact same reservoir. You can use this data to re-engineer your daily schedule. If your energy tank depletes throughout the day, stop scheduling difficult work at 3 p.m. You tackle the hardest tasks early when your reserves are full. People with high follow-rough don't have endless reserves of energy. They simply design environments and schedules that rarely require them to tap into their willpower in the first place. Even with a perfectly optimized schedule, you will still face acute urges. The third pillar is a tactical response to those moments, the 10-minute rule. When you feel the urge to break your plan, don't actively resist it. Deliberately delay it by telling yourself to wait just 10 minutes. This graph maps out the neuroscience of an intense craving. They feel permanent and urgent in the moment, but they are actually temporary emotional waves. If you observe the 10-minute threshold, you'll see that simply letting time pass causes the urge to drop by nearly half of its original intensity. Walter Mischel demonstrated this during his decades of research with the famous marshmallow test. The children who successfully waited for a second marshmallow didn't do it by gritting their teeth. They distracted themselves, looked away, and removed their attention from the object they wanted. You can replicate this by setting a 10-minute timer and immediately changing your physical context. Step outside, drink a glass of water, or focus on a minor task. By the time the timer sounds, the wave will have weakened significantly. All of these tactics keep you on track day to day, but they must be anchored to the fourth and most critical pillar, identity-based reinforcement. Skipping this specific step is the primary reason people eventually relapse into old patterns. Consider the psychological friction of saying, I'm trying to quit smoking versus I am a non-smoker. The first statement implies an ongoing struggle. The second assumes a new permanent identity. Humans are wired to act in ways that align with how they see themselves. This visualization shows a concept popularized by researcher James Clear. Every action you take serves as a quantifiable vote for the type of person you are becoming. By performing the behavior, you choose that identity. By skipping it, you choose the alternative. Over time, these individual votes build a solid, concrete identity. Permanent behavioral shift take root when you change the internal narrative of who you believe you are. Once you align your daily actions with that new self-image, the friction of trying to build a habit begins to disappear. When we examine these 4 methods together, we see how they create a compounding effect. They are distinct layers of a single behavioral system. This structure demonstrates how they interlock. Planning your triggers protects your daily energy limits. That conserved energy buys you time during acute cravings, and successfully navigating those cravings reinforces your new identity. Together, they form a stable, unified behavioral architecture. This system is explicitly designed to hold up under pressure. You don't build it for the days when you feel rested and motivated. You build it so that the structure sustains your behavior on your lowest energy, most difficult days. So your next step is straightforward. Pick exactly one of these methods and apply it today. Do not wait for a spontaneous burst of motivation to get started. You might be feeling a sense of friction right now, a slight urge to put this off until tomorrow. Recognize that impulse. The best time to build your system is exactly when your brain wants to wait. Our goal at Keenmaker is to provide a systemic understanding of behavior that lasts a lifetime. By mastering these underlying mechanisms, you can build a personal architecture that actually holds up. Subscribe for more. See you in the next one.